Okay, this is our hot topic. Boy, which will be introduced by Boyan.
Hi, my name is Boyan. I used to work in solidarity with the Palestinians in the West Bank, and I recently came back from Gaza, and I've also worked with Palestinians in Lebanese refugee camps. So I think the topic at hand right now is the Palestinian right to resistance. We're going to discuss that, and also the implications of Mahmoud Abbas's call for statehood at the UN. So
Who would like to start the discussion? Adam?
Yes. Well, I'll go with statehood first. So, Abbas has recently said that he wants to have full membership in the UN for Palestine. I don't think we should veto it. I think that the United States should definitely not veto it because we need Palestine to become its own state. Because two reasons. If it becomes its own state, then Israel has the right to retaliate in full force and invade if Palestine does not cease any attacks on Israeli soil. Two, if Palestine if it has inner turmoil after it becomes its own state between Hamas, Fatah, any other groups within there, then we have a right as NATO or the UN, either one, and the United States especially, to go in for peace enforcement. We can launch a stability operation, the same that Russia did in South Ossetia in Georgia back in 2008 during the Olympic Games. This would give us a foothold in Palestine. We have troops on the ground, and we have patrol points, security points with patrols and everything.
I would strongly contest that analogy, seeing as you're comparing it to Russia's actions in South Ossetia, which were very, very controversial, seeing as it basically took the form of an invasion.
Oh,
to support
Palestinians aren't
alleged
controversial at all. I don't
resistance.
think you guys know what you're talking about at all. Do you know why the Palestinian-Israeli issue is even a problem right now? So let's go through that first. In 1948, the UN declared Israel a state, right? So at this point, Jewish Israeli soldiers from 1945 until a little bit past 1948 went through and started basically ethnic cleansing Palestinians from their villages. About 200 to 300 villages were burned to the ground, razed, and settlements were raised over them. And these Palestinians were all driven away into the West Bank, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, various other places from which they emigrated or they remained in refugee camps to this day. So from that point on, this whole thing has been about settler colonial expansion. Okay, now we look at the rest of North Africa and the Middle East, and we look at responses to settler colonial expansion. What happened? In Algeria, they fought back with arms, right? Libya, they fought back with arms. Egypt, they fought back with arms. Everywhere, it's the same thing. Israel is the last white settler colonial state in the Middle East and North Africa. That's why it's a problem. So you can't go along and start normalizing relations with a country that is based on excluding the indigenous population from modes of production, from owning land, from any sort of water rights, from any sort of freedom of movement, any sort of civil liberties. This entire issue is just moot without that point. So then we go into the statehood bid. Okay, Mahmoud Abbas, first of all, is not the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. He lost that when Hamas was elected to power in 2007, right, Adam? Yeah, 2007. So at that point, Fatah attempted a coup in Gaza. Hamas responded the way any government would. They crushed it violently, right? Because Fatah was supported by the U.S., they had U.S. weapons. So at this point, Fatah took control of the West Bank under Israel's guise, and ever since then, Mahmoud Abbas has been the sort of mini enforcer for the Israeli state. He basically, I've been to the West Bank, I've seen this. The Palestinian Authority does not care for Palestinians at all. Whenever we go to the demonstrations, first of all, the Palestinian Authority tries to put them down, and they're very violent for it. And then if that doesn't work, the Israeli army then goes and puts them down. So the Palestinian Authority is not friends with the Palestinian people in any way whatsoever. I mean, if you look at how many people are rotting in Palestinian jails, less than the 11,000 Palestinians that are rotting away in Israeli jails, but still a significant number. So this whole statehood bid thing is just it's just a game between Israel and Palestine and the United States, or the Palestinian government, which is not the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people.
And we could win this game either way if we veto it.
Right,
or
but
don't veto it.
the whole point is that I'm not a racist or a bigot. I don't really care about winning some sort of game. I think we're all people, right? It doesn't matter what nationality you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. Everyone deserves the same things: justice, freedom, and peace.
Also, you are not looking back far enough.
You
say the indigenous population,
right,
but this
That's
was a
true.
Jewish state.
Yes, and
There's over 600
understand
mentions in the Bible of a Jewish nation.
Right, I don't understand
Can
what
go back
kind
before
of
that, too.
intellectual deficiency this is, because if you look at it, the reason why I talk about 1948 ethnic cleansing is because I've met the people who are still alive, who are the victims of this ethnic cleansing. So yeah, if you go back 6,000 years, you can find much atrocities, and if I was alive during that period, I would fight them too. The reason why I fight this is because I'm alive during it now, and it's happening during my lifetime.
You mentioned
Doesn't it make
Africa
sense?
though, but you have the Khoikhoi down in South Africa. They are indigenous. They were always in South Africa. The Khoikhoi people. In
South Africa. I didn't mention South Africa.
You mentioned Africa.
North
Africa.
Africa,
Libyans have a right to resist against Graziani because the Italians never lived in Libya. Jewish people inhabited.
You can't just say that because you lived there 2,000 years ago. Now you can come and uproot
I mean,
people from
you're
the
forced
villages.
out by
That's
other
idiotic.
Well, all right. I mean, I guess I have a couple points with what you said. From the fact that you.
Well, let's just start on common ground. First of all, what was the population of Jews in Palestine in 1947? What was the percentage of total population? In the little strip of land designated as Palestine. Do you know the
What
number?
percent? No, I don't know the
Okay,
exact
6%.
percent.
So now that we're starting from that point, proceed to tell me how you think that the Jews have a right to colonize the land.
All right. Well, first off, considering it was initially split between them, do I think Israel, the
Who
Jews
split
didn't
it?
take the whole
Who
thing?
split it?
The UN.
Okay, well, why did the UN have any power to split, all of a sudden the colonization? They say, okay, let's legitimize that colonization. You guys can wipe off this many people, but not anymore.
Because
I'm going to just say this right now. Right now, the reason why we're not going to agree on anything is the basic way we view it. And I may not completely agree with how Adam viewed it from a biblical standpoint, but I think historically that Israel does have some right to land. There has always been some presence there.
Okay, so
that you
are
can-
they right to colonize and then create a
You're
nation?
saying the word
nation-
colonize.
Right,
It's
but it
not
is colonization,
colonizing.
but you
No,
have
it's
no idea what
not.
you're talking about. Have you even read the writings of Ben-Gurion and Vladimir Jabotinsky?
Yeah, I've read
Have
some.
you? Have you
Yeah.
read some of it? Or have you read the part where Vladimir Jabotinsky says right away, Zionism is colonism. If you don't understand that, leave.
that is true.
We have to wipe
but
out
why?
the Arabs.
Why are they colonizing? Why did the UN give them their own
But
state?
okay,
But
the point
no,
is
let
it
me-
doesn't
I'm gonna
matter.
answer- you
It
asked me a
doesn't matter.
question.
But
Let
it
me-
doesn't matter why they were colonized.
Let me
The fact
answer
is
your
we've all
question.
agreed
You
that
asked the
colonization is
question.
wrong, and so why defend that practice? Oh, I don't care exactly why they wanted to colonize. The fact is they did colonize.
But you
Okay,
asked the
maybe-
question, why? Okay,
Okay.
so the UN gave them their own state back. Because look at the Germans, look at the French. In the 1800s, they wrote in the 1900s, they wrote things about, in Germany, in Nassau, the state government said that Jews cannot be part of the German state because they have their own nation. They have a nation of Israel, a Jewish nation. Therefore,
Right.
they cannot belong to two nations. Therefore, they cannot hold public
So
office.
from one
So
wrong
if
will
we're
make
not
four
going,
more?
so if we're not going to give them, if we're not going to let them be part of any other nation
But
because
who's
they have
we?
their
Are
own
you
nation,
German?
the Europeans,
The Europeans.
Okay.
the
are one
United
people?
Nations, and
Oh.
most of them want
This
it
is-
as their own
the
state.
reason
But
why this is idiotic is because you think that nation states are the fundamental, indivisible units with which we can analyze foreign policy. I think that's idiotic.
so if no one wants Jews anymore, we're gonna put them. We're gonna kill them off.
What kind of
Hitler
idiot
tried
says
that.
this? No one wants Jews anymore. I
Anywhere.
a Jew. I love them.
No, you're not gonna get like German politicians, Muslim politicians. They don't want them in their states. They don't
That's
say that
not
they should
true
be
at all.
full
That's
citizens.
idiotic.
Yes, they did it. Why do you say they tried to kill them in the Holocaust?
That was Adolf Hitler, and that was one way of releasing social pressure.
That was Adolf Hitler. It was more than just that.
Yeah, exactly. That was his way of releasing social pressure, was by blaming it all on the
No,
Jews.
this Hitler
Okay?
did
It's
it.
not because people hated Jews for their race. In fact, if you go back many centuries, people always wanted Jews to change their religion. But once they changed their religion, they did not hate them anymore. Okay, it was purely religious hatred, which is quite
Oh,
common.
So
Quite
you have
common.
to convert.
Quite
or
common
die.
in the world, yes. Quite common in the world. Christians wanted Muslims and Jews to convert. Jews wanted Muslims and Christians to convert. Muslims wanted Christians and Jews to convert. Whatever. The point is, racial hatred against Jews only started with Adolf Hitler's Germany in 1942.
No, it did not.
Yes, it did.
Pogrom, are you kidding me? No.
1938.
It's
Wait,
been going on
wait,
for
wait,
years.
1800s.
It's been going on for years.
They had a
No,
Jew
before
tax
that.
in
Years.
France.
Racial purity started with the creation of the nation state in Europe.
Yeah, that wasn't in Hitler's time. That was in
Okay,
the
a little bit
1800s.
before Hitler's time, I'll admit that. But it was a very recent phenomenon. Before that, no one hated Jews for being Jewish race.
1850.
I
was
mean,
where that
I
started.
cite everything from the Inquisition to.
For being
Pogrom.
religious Jews, yes.
Okay,
Not
so
racial Jews. They're
Okay,
completely
so-
different things.
okay, so you think that's then a significant difference, whether or not you hate a Jew because he's Jewish, or whether or not you hate a Jew because
You
he's.
practice
Yes,
Judaism.
culture.
quite different. Quite different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're
Well,
saying
I
that we should
disagree with
allow
that.
Jews to
Well,
practice
just
their
no,
religion?
only because we're talking about how Adolf Hitler let off social pressure in 1938 Germany. If we're talking about Israel-Palestine, it doesn't matter at all. And in fact, many people in Palestine don't hate Jews. In fact, I was in Gaza, and I spoke to a lot of people from Hamas because Hamas is one of the only people who actually, one of the only organizations that can employ people. And they told me all the time, I don't hate Jews, and I don't hate Americans, and I don't hate Israelis. What I hate is the governments who are oppressing us, and they don't let us eat, and they don't let us have dental supplies, and they don't let us have medical supplies, and they don't let us have education. They bomb our schools. I saw this for myself. I went through this.
So you take away the ethnic part of nationalism. It's all institutionalist now. It's
Yes.
states versus states.
Yeah.
Wait, so that's what from that perspective.
No,
Why
no,
wouldn't
but
we?
the point is that you see it as state versus state, where I see as that kind of comparison is idiotic.
Why?
Why?
States are what
Because-
get.
Because people don't identify so closely with their nation state. They identify much more with class.
Oh wait, people in this state or in this nation, America, want stability. They want their
Well,
oil
it's called a
cheaper.
state.
Right, it's not a state.
Okay.
They want their oil cheaper. They want everything better. They want their
Right.
economy stronger. They want their defense
Okay,
stronger.
so
They don't
but
want to be
let's, okay,
afraid.
if you want me to talk you through my global theory of accumulation, I can, and I will. The people of the United States want oil to be cheaper, but who doesn't want oil to be cheaper, right? Armaments companies and oil companies. And here's why. Because they can arm Saudi Arabian monarchs and all the Gulf monarchs to repress their people, who are, by the way, they're totally allied with Israel. The weapons companies sell all the weapons to do that. The monarchs make all of their money from monopolizing the oil, so they use those petrodollars to inject into the U.S. economy to buy more weapons, right? So this actually, the oil prices rise, but as long as there's a boost for the oil and petrodollar industry, which are the people who support Obama along with the banking industry, that's all that matters.
For national security, we have control
National
of the Suez
security.
Canal.
Oh, don't
We have
don't
control of the
give me
Suez
bullshit.
Canal. We
Come
have
on,
control over.
if you look at national security, I mean, the Taliban offered to hand Osama bin Laden over to George Bush months before we invaded Afghanistan, and Bush refused. Why? Because they don't care about that.
Yeah, you want control over Suez Canal. You want
Right,
control
right.
over the economy.
Exactly.
You want money.
You
You want
want-
reserves to be built
Right,
up.
you want geopolitical control.
Yeah,
at the
geopolitical
expense
control.
of the
It's
lives of
imperialism.
millions of people. How many people died
How many Americans died?
How many thousands of people died to construct the Suez Canal? 200,000.
Yeah, not Americans.
Exactly. So he's a racist. I don't see what's
Not
the point.
racist,
What's
it's
the point in discussing? If you're not American, it doesn't matter, right?
It,
Okay.
It doesn't
yeah.
matter
So
for the
what's-
government's
what's the
perspective.
point
The
of talking about
government
this?
is supposed to protect
Right.
its people,
So-
not other
okay,
people.
okay,
Other
good.
people don't
No,
matter.
that's good, Adam. You're thinking now. And the next step, you got like a few neurons in there, like running. Okay. The next step is if governments don't think in the interest of people. Come on, fill it in for me.
Then they
Fill it
won't
in
have
for me.
any
Fill it
authority
in for
over
me. Then there's no reason to elect those people.
Exactly, there's no authority. So
Yeah, no, there's no reason to elect those people. I didn't say there's no reason
Okay,
for
guys,
authority.
There won't be
we have
majority.
about 2 minutes left, so try to wrap this up pretty quickly.
Alright, let's
The
go
point is the
around.
Palestinians have a right to resist because it's been enshrined in. That's how people who have been colonized resist occupation, and that's what they're doing. And they will continue to do that because violence is a form of communication. They're communicating. We want our land back. We want to go back to Jaffa, Haifa, Akkad, all those places that were taken from us. Okay, and we don't want to kick the Jews out. In fact, they told me that many times. Just in case you're ever wondering, in Gaza, people who work for Hamas, they say we don't want to kick the Jews out. We want to live with them equally, but we don't want them to control our water. We want all of us shared to control our water. All of us shared to control our food and our natural resources and our land.
Okay.
So-
and,
Hey,
well,
yeah,
okay.
Would you like to contribute anything? Just to wrap it up a bit.
I don't really have anything to add. I support the right to resist, but I don't really agree with historical claims in general because there are too many people who have an ethnic claim to any given piece of land.
Okay. Adam?
I believe that the Jews have an ethnic claim to Israel, but that's not important to me. I look at it from more of a modernist, institutionalist point of view, and based on America and what it should do, it should not veto Palestinians' bid for statehood because it will benefit Americans. The American government has the right to do
No,
whatever
it'll
is best for
benefit the
Americans.
American government.
It has the right to do whatever is best for the people there, national security-wise, economic-wise, etc.
Okay.
And therefore, we should allow Palestine to become a state.
Okay.
Okay, and then back to what you said. Just like you don't want to kick, all the Jews out of
Me,
that
but
area.
I don't-
okay, I'm just saying your
I
point.
live here. I'm not
Okay, no,
Palestinian.
okay.
No,
hey,
don't
hey,
argue,
hey,
don't
no,
argue.
okay.
Quickly wrap it up.
Okay, and just like I'm saying how you said the Palestinians don't want to kick the Jews out, I also think, as a Jew and most Israelis, they don't want to kick the Palestinians out. They don't want to commit genocide. The whole reason they're there
Not
is
genocide,
because
ethnic
that.
cleansing. There's a difference.
Okay.
You have to be
think
precise.
disagree.
Okay, then.
Otherwise, it's just intellectual masturbation.
Thank you for that.
What's the point of?
Yeah.
what's the
And
point of
that
talking
note,
about
on
it?
that note, on
Right,
that
right,
note,
right.
we will end this topic. You guys can discuss this later. We will move on to our next topic, which will be the gridlock.